HazardScreen, how to easily test your water sample. When you need to have water tested for toxicity, you will find it vitally useful to be able to identify which water sources actually require testing as opposed to just doing a blanket test of all sources. HazardScreen is a screening system for your water samples, helping you identify which water sources are safe and which need lab testing. The test is able to screen water for non-bacterial toxicity from chemicals and metals. Samples of properly diluted seawater can also be tested. The test is simple and lightweight enough to take into the field with you. Being able to test quickly in the field will save you time, money, and a great deal of energy. This video will show you how to easily calibrate your equipment, test your sample for toxicity, and make an assessment of the test result. The fluorometer is the centerpiece of your test. Let's begin by calibrating your fluorometer. By doing this, you are ensuring that your results are always as accurate as possible. It is important to calibrate the fluorometer once a day. Familiarize yourself with the on-off button, opening the lid and inserting samples with the label facing forward, and lastly, the F1, F2, and F3 buttons. All the materials you need for calibration are included in your kit. You will use a fluorometer, DNA dye solution, 3 ml of Baxter water is a sterilized sample of water, and an empty cuvette and cuvette cap. Let's begin step 1 of 3, which is to create the blank. The blank is a pure sample of Baxter water created for calibration. Take an empty cuvette labeled B for blank, add 3 ml of Baxter water, place a cap on the cuvette. You have now made your blank. Let's begin step 2 of 3, which is to make the cal solution. Take an empty cuvette labeled with a number, add 3 ml of Baxter water, add 20 microliters of DNA dye solution. The cal solution is a sample of Baxter water combined with DNA dye for calibration. Place a cap on the cuvette and mix the solution by inverting at least 10 times. You have now made your cal solution. Let's begin step 3 of 3, which is to calibrate the fluorometer with the blank and cal solution you have just prepared. Turn the fluorometer on, press the F1 button to read, then the F2 button. The screen will say Read Blank Ready. Insert the blank cuvette as shown here, close the fluorometer lid and press F3. The screen will say Read Cal Solution. Remove the blank and insert the cal cuvette. Close the lid again and press F3 a second time. The fluorometer is now calibrated. The screen will say F equals, and if you press F3 at this stage, you will see that the fluorescence should now read approximately 1000 AU, give or take 100 units. With calibration of the fluorometer now complete, you are ready to measure toxicity in your collected water samples. Before heading out into the field, prepare some cuvettes with 2 ml of Baxter water and 20 microliters of DNA test dye. When you are out in the field, collect a sample of water. Before you measure toxicity, check your sample for turbidity. If you can see that it is not a clear looking sample, you will need to filter before testing. You can do this by taking a sample into a sterile 3 ml syringe and passing the sample through a 0.45 microliter filter disc into the provided sterile 15 ml tube. Both the disc and the tube are provided with your kit. Add 1 ml of water to be tested to your prepared cuvette. Recap it and then mix 10 times. Check for bubbles. Tap the cuvette gently to settle any bubbles. Insert the cuvette into the reader with the number facing forward. Close the lid. Press F3 every 10 seconds 4 to 5 times and record the values. Return the sample to its correct position in the box for retesting in the laboratory if necessary. You are now ready to assess the toxicity of your sample, with one important exception. If during your test the fluorescence increases rather than decreases, your sample may be autofluorescent, which means it is almost certainly toxic. We will cover testing for autofluorescence at the end of this video. If you do not suspect that your sample is autofluorescent, use the chart provided to gauge toxicity. If your sample returns a value of 1000 to 750 units, then it is not toxic. 750 to 500 units means that there is a level of toxicity in the water, but it is still usable. If your sample is returning a value of 500 to 250 units, you have a problem with your water and you may wish to have a full test done. Any result 250 units and under is potentially dangerous, and it is strongly recommended for you to have the water tested by a laboratory of your choice or with our laboratory. Please consult our website for details on using our laboratory. It is also recommended practice to do a second test for any result in the region of 750 units or lower with the HazardScreen kit before committing to a lab test. We will now test an item for autofluorescence. You may reasonably suspect that a sample is autofluorescent if your initial test shows the fluorescence increasing over time instead of decreasing. Take an empty cuvette and add 2 to 3 milliliters of water to be tested. You will not need to add test dye. Cap the cuvette and insert it into the fluorometer and press F3. If the item returns a positive result, then it is fluorescent without a dye being added, meaning that it is almost certainly toxic. This sample should be analyzed in a laboratory to establish the source of the toxicity. Keep your sample and label it accurately for further testing. As you have seen, HazardScreen is a screening system for your water samples, helping you identify which water sources are safe and which need laboratory testing. The test is easy for non-technical people, simple and lightweight, a time, money and energy saver. Please use the contact details on this webpage to get in touch with us today about how you can start easily testing your own water samples.